Thank you, everyone, for joining today's desktop workshop on accident reporting in GSAFleet.gov. I'm going to turn things over to Sarah Whitmore, Angel Rahman, and Sean Terrell.
Great. Thank you, Stacy, and good morning, everyone. As Stacy said, I'm Sarah Whitmore, the Accident Management Branch Chief here at GSAFleet.gov, or GSA Fleet. But today we're excited to talk to you about our new accident reporting application in GSAFleet.gov. Before I jump into the session overview, I just want to take a minute and thank everyone for their patience and understanding this past year and a half now. If you have experienced any delays with accident reporting and getting your vehicles repaired and turned around, perhaps as timely as you've been used to in the past, I do think that this new application that we're going to be walking through today is definitely a step in the right direction, is going to really streamline this process for you all, as well as our accident specialists, and with the end goal of getting your vehicles back on the road as timely as possible. So today we're just going to go through some of our updates and changes for accident reporting. We're also going to dive into a live demo of accident reporting in the new application, and Angel Rahman will be leading that. And then we're going to wrap up with some reminders and tips for you all, as well as just going through some questions and answers. All right, so I just want to jump in here and talk about this new self-service accident reporting module and kind of hit on some high-level benefits and takeaways that we're all going to glean from this. First of all, it's a pretty easy reporting tool that we've created in GSAFleet.gov. And you're going to be able to go in there and report all of your accidents and incidents in one spot quickly and efficiently. It's going to be a guided step-by-step process where you'll be able to, walk through the steps and what's required of you to report your accident, as far as what data is required, what documentation is required. And again, Angel's going to walk through all of that in a little bit. One of the biggest, I guess, takeaways and benefits, I'd say, is just the visibility that customers will now have into accident reporting. So you will be able to see, depending on, your role and how you are scoped, the customer accounts that you're scoped to in GSAFleet.gov, you would be able to see the accidents tied to the vehicles that you're scoped to. So again, really pushing the transparency here and allowing for clear status tracking. There are various statuses that we've identified based on where the accident is in the accident reporting is in the process. And we've also generated quite a few system notifications that will be sent out. And we'll walk through each of those a little later in the slide deck here. And then lastly, we're really hoping this helps prevent any duplicate reporting. Again, kind of that enhanced visibility. You'll be able to see what's already been reported for any particular vehicle and make sure that it doesn't get reported again, and be able to also go in and check, okay, what has been reported on this? Where is it at in the process as well? The goal here is just ensuring cleaner data, and I think, all of this kind of sums up just really streamlining the process that exists today. So on that note, let's walk through what is happening today, just to make sure we're all kind of tracking and on the same page. First and foremost, the accident occurs, unfortunately. And then what happens is, depending, how your agency has structured accident reporting, you may have a centralized process, others may not. And so you collect the relevant details of the accident and the forms, photos, estimates, etc. And then that gets submitted to our AMC at GSA.gov mailbox. And we collect everything in there, and then that gets routed to our accident management specialists. And this is where we've really seen, some bottlenecks occur, just with, data and documentation. Sometimes it can come in more of a piecemeal fashion, especially if you don't know up front what's expected. So you may provide, here are the photos, here's my, vehicle information, and here's what's happened. And then we would follow up and say, okay, we need a repair estimate and the SF91. So there can be quite a bit of back and forth that ensues in that process as it exists today. So once that's given to the specialists, they then create a case in GSAFleet.gov, and that's where they would enter all of the data. They would upload the documents, and they would work on getting the repair authorization in place to get the vehicle fixed and back on the road. All right, so let's talk about where we're going. So with this new tool, you would log into GSAFleet.gov and you would create your accident report directly in the system. Again, just highlighting the visibility that this is going to promote, and your ability to see existing reports that already exist for your customer scoping, if you will. You'll then follow the steps to verify the vehicle. So you'll enter in the vehicle tag, and then it'll kind of pop up, making sure you have the right tag entered before you do start reporting on that. And then you'll start to enter the accident details and then upload any required documentation at that point. The feature also allows you to add the at-fault third-party driver details in the system, and this is for if there's any privately owned vehicle involvement. We want to make sure we're gathering the at-fault party details so that we can then we have a third-party claims team, and they then pursue that at-fault party to make sure we GSA Fleet are collecting on the damages to our vehicle from the appropriate party. Lastly here, you will be able to save a draft, right? If you go into the system and you start to enter some of the data, but there's something that you're not sure about, or you don't have one of the documents at that point in order to submit it, you can save and exit, and then you'll be allowed to re-enter and kind of pick up where you left off, right? So it's not uncommon to start something and then realize you don't have all the requirements at that point. So we do want to make sure you're allowed to preserve the data you've entered and re-enter once you have that. And then it's only once you do have all the requirements for the report that it'll then get routed and submitted to an accident management specialist. And just kind of our tagline here, the automated process here is going to save time, and it's really going to clearly track the accidents that have been reported. All right, let's talk about some of the requirements that are in place for the new reporting module. So first and foremost, if you are going to report an accident, you have to have an active account in GSAFleet.gov. It's important to note that customer administrators are the ones to approve any new users into the system. And we do ask that you plan ahead just to avoid any reporting delays in the future. And I believe I failed to mention, but our goal is to have this released in GSAFleet.gov later this summer. So, end of August perhaps is what we're targeting, but certainly more to come on that. But again, we do want folks to plan ahead, and we will be sending out some emails just to make sure, those who perhaps have reported on an accident in the past, if we identify that you do not have an active account, we're going to try to target that and send that out to folks just to make sure, hey, if you need to do this in the future or might have to for your agency, please go ahead and create an account and get things set up so that we do avoid any delays. Because oftentimes when you're reporting an accident, it needs to be timely. You want to get the vehicle repaired and back on the road. All right, and then just in regard to actually submitting the report through the system, there are some key items that are going to be required in order to push that report forward to a specialist. And those are the repair estimate, color photos, and just the basic accident details, the who, what, where, when, why, how, around the accident or incident that's occurred. The SF91 is a required form to fill out and submit for an accident. It is not necessarily something we are requiring at the point of submission. And that is because it may take a little longer for you to get everything populated on that form and get the signatures that are required. And we don't want that necessarily to preclude the ability to go ahead and review, the details of the accident, the estimate, the photos, and get that repair started where we can, right? So this will allow our specialists to move forward in reviewing everything and taking the steps to get that vehicle repaired while you maybe are completing the SF91. But it is still very much a required form for accidents. The SF94, the statement of witness, is optional. It's certainly recommended if needed and relevant. Similarly, the police report, right? So again, going back to those at-fault third-party, cases or incidents that occur, police reports are always necessary and really helpful when we are pursuing that third party for damages to the vehicle. But understand too, police reports can take time. So again, we don't want that to preclude anything on our end from getting the vehicle fixed, but do know that it's something you will be able to come back and upload after you've submitted the initial accident report. And just a reminder down here, I mentioned it before, you will be able to save any in-progress reports to preserve that entered data and revisit once you are able to gather that necessary information. All right, I talked a little bit earlier about some of those notifications that we've now generated to really to promote transparency with this new, surrounding the whole accident reporting process, really. So first, a draft a notification is going to be generated whenever somebody goes in and generates a draft accident submission, right? So they've gone in, they've started it for that vehicle, but they haven't finished it and they've just, hit save and exit. So we're going to have a notification for that. And then also there will be one 4 days later that will just, if there's been no action in those 4 days, it will be a reminder to say, hey, this is still incomplete. Just don't forget about it. Come back and make sure you fill everything out and get it submitted. Or if it's not needed, you do have the option to delete it. There will also be a notification for when that report is actually submitted and when it, is kind of coming through to the GSA side for us to take action. And then lastly, there is going to be an option for our accident management specialists. Once everything's been submitted to them, and if they realize something is missing or, they still haven't received the SF91 from you all, or they need updated photos or the police report, they will be able to use a new feature on our side, on the GSA side, to request that information. And so that'll come in a form of an email notification to the customer to make sure that we are, that you can then go in and upload the missing documentation or take any actions that are necessary at that time. And all of these notifications are going to be sent to the accident reporter, the customer POC for that vehicle, if that is different from the reporter. And then the FSR will also be looped into all of these notifications. All right, so I'm going to stop talking and turn it over to Angel Rahman, our product manager for maintenance and repair. And she's going to walk us through an actual live demo where you really get to see how this is going to unfold. Angel, I will turn it over to you and I will stop sharing here.
All right, thank you so much.
I will try to stop sharing.
All right. All right. Sarah, can you just confirm that you can see my screen?
I can. I hope everyone else can.
I can too, if that helps and makes you feel any better. So everybody should be able to.
That's
Wonderful.
great.
That does make me feel better. Thank you, Stacy. Good morning, everybody. My name is Angel Ramon, and like Sarah said, I'm the product manager for the maintenance and repair section of GSAFleet.gov. Today, I'm going to walk you through a live demonstration of the accident reporting feature that we've created. So just a few things. I'm going to show you a quick overview of where users can find accident reporting information before logging into GSAFleet.gov, how customers can access the accident reporting portal once they're logged in, then how to start and complete a new accident report, and then where to find the current status of an accident case. And Sarah kind of walked you through some of those statuses a little bit earlier. So let's jump right in. Firstly, right before we log in, you will notice that we've included a accident reporting link here. I want to be clear that this is not where you will actually report your accident. When you click on this link, it'll take you just to a page that gives information about the accident reporting process and identifies those instances where calling in your accident report would be more appropriate than reporting your accident online. If you're at the scene of the accident, if your vehicle needs to be towed, if the vehicle's in storage, you want to get on the phone with our accident management center as soon as possible so that they can work to make sure that those vehicles are appropriately managed. However, if you don't fit into any of these scenarios, or if your instance doesn't fit into any of these scenarios, then we have just an overview of the reporting process at the bottom, telling you all the information you should document and carry before, during, and after the accident, when and how to notify your supervisor and the different forms you need. And then lastly, how to file the accident report online, which of course you need to have a GSAFleet.gov account in order to report the accident online. So it will lead you to either create that account or log into your account. So we are going to log in today. All right, it seems to kick me out. So just give me 1 second here. So now that we are logged into GSAFleet.gov, you'll notice that the page looks pretty much the same. Where you will go to find the accident reporting portal is right at this manage space. And under the leased vehicle section, because this accident reporting is currently only for GSA Fleet leased vehicles, there is accident reporting. So we're going to click here and we'll be taken to the accident reporting module where if you are scoped to a specific leasing account, you are able to see all of the accident reports that are assigned to the vehicle, to the accounts that you're scoped to. If you're just a motor pool driver or motor pool dispatcher, you're able to see the accident reports that you create. Nothing else assigned to the account. So this user is assigned to the Navy, so we're going to look at the reports that they have here in this test environment. And I just want to show you guys what is listed here. You'll have the accident case number, which includes, it's the license plate plus an identifier number on the end there. Then we have the VIN, year, make, and model of the vehicle. Again, the license plate, the date submitted if the accident case file has been submitted, and then the case status. So the different case statuses we have are draft, pending, in progress, and closed. The draft status means essentially that the report has been started, but has not yet been sent to our accident management center. In which case, if it's a duplicate or you started it incorrectly, you are able to delete those draft status cases. However, once it is sent to the accident management center and it's in a pending status, or anything beyond that, you would not be able to delete that, and you would have to reach out to our accident management specialist to talk more or make any changes to that case file. So a pending status means that the case has been submitted to our accident management center. However, it has not yet been assigned to a specialist to work on. So we usually try to get those assigned pretty quickly. So you shouldn't see a case file in pending status for a long time. Then in progress means that that case file is currently assigned to a specialist and is being worked by that specialist. And then finally, the last status, which I don't have in here, but it's closed. It means that that case file has been completed, and the vehicle has either been disposed of, if that was the outcome, or the vehicle should be back in service. So we are going to click right here just to start a new accident report. You'll see this first page, we start with capturing the license plate information for the vehicle. Again, you'd be able to report accidents for vehicles that are assigned to accounts that you are scoped to. So if you are putting in a tag number and it's saying that it's not the right tag number, or that we can't find that tag number, for instance, this is an example of an error. Or actually, let me just, if it's saying that that license plate cannot be found, it's either the license plate has been entered incorrectly, or it's not a license plate that you're scoped to. So once we have the license plate information in there, now we need to identify what type of accident we are reporting. Is this an accident that involves at least one other vehicle? Or if it doesn't involve another vehicle, did anyone suffer a fatality or injury? Or was there any damage to public or private property? Selecting any of these three options here means that you are reporting an accident, and therefore an SF91 is required. Not to submit the case, let me point out, but in order for us to be able to work and complete the case, we would need that SF91. However, if none of these scenarios apply to the case, and we're talking about vandalism or just oh man, like a quick, you ran into something and there's just some damage to the vehicle, then we're talking about an incident. In this case, it does not require that you submit that SF91. That does become an optional document for that case file, for that workflow. So we are going to submit an accident file, case file today. The first thing you'll notice is that we want to make sure that you are submitting this report for the correct vehicle. So we just confirm that by showing the plate again, along with the year, make, model, and color of the vehicle and the VIN, the assigned FSR, and the main customer point of contact for that vehicle. If everything's correct, you're welcome to move forward. If not, you would be sent back to the screen we were on before to enter the correct plate. So now we are in the accident report. And I just want to quickly kind of go down the screen to just show you that this is just a form. It's a pretty simple entry. We have the required fields there, and we'll go through each section, but at the end of this form, you are able to either save and exit as a draft, come back and update the information as soon as you have it available, or submit and send it to our GSA Fleet Accident Management Center. But let me go back to the top here so we can look at each of these sections and learn a little bit more about what's required. So the reporter and driver section, if the reporter is the person that is logged in, that is completing the report. So we pull that information directly from your user profile. If anything here is incorrect, you definitely want to go take a look at your user profile, make sure that that information is correct. If the reporter and driver are the same person, you can just select this button and it would automatically fill that driver information in. but you can also come in and put in the information for a different driver if you are reporting on behalf of someone. All righty. And then, of course, you need to put in the phone number. The accident date information is simply that. What date did the accident take place on? The accident type would just have you quickly identify if this was a collision, or if you struck an animal, or if this was an act of nature, or vandalism, or theft. Any of that type of information, we need to be able to capture that quickly. Then the number of vehicles involved, and then the accident location. Just basic information about the accident. And then we have the accident description section, where first we need just the description of the accident being as detailed as possible, keeping in mind that all the information here helps our accident management specialist in getting the vehicle repaired and back on the road. So I'm going to copy and paste my accident description here, and then identify any additional scenarios or things that may apply to this specific accident here. Did the airbags deploy? Was there a vehicle fire? If there were wet or foggy conditions, if there was a distracted driver, speeding, reckless driving, anything that will help us just get as much context as we need to move forward with getting the repair completed. Now, if you're reporting an incident, this bodily harm section isn't shown, but in an accident form, you would have to identify if anyone was injured. If no one was injured at all and no one suffered a fatality, you can enter in all 4 zeros. And we're actually going to update this so it's pre-populated with the zeros, so you'd only have to make changes if someone was actually hurt or suffered that fatality. Then we're on to the documentation section. So before I get in here, I want to just point out that in order to submit the accident case file to the accident management specialist, you would need to upload at least 1 photo of the damage and at least 1 repair estimate. That is the minimum amount of information our specialist needs to start working a case. So this system is set up to quickly let you know if that information has been captured. Let me just do a quick upload. All righty. And then it'll let you know that you also need a photo, so it gives you that warning. You can save and exit without having all of the information that you need to submit, but you won't be able to hit submit at the bottom if you don't have that photo added. So let's just get that added really quickly. And then you will see that error message disappear. Now, if there was a third-party vehicle involved in this accident as well, you'd want to enter as much information as possible about the vehicle, the driver, the insurance company, and if it's a different person, the vehicle owner, or company, I should say, the vehicle owner information, so that GSA can go about the work of filing a claim with this third-party driver's insurance company if they are at fault. So that capturing all that information, of course, all of it's optional because we understand that you may not have it all immediately, but as soon as you get it, you want to contact the GSAFleet.gov specialist. So I'm sorry, contact the Accident Management Center specialist so that they are able to update their file if you've already submitted it. So now that we've kind of gone through all of the information that we need to go through, again, we can either save and exit or submit. If you hit submit, the report itself, the actual fields in the report are not editable. Once you come back, you can only come back to upload additional documentation, like the police report, if you get it later down the line, or additional estimates or additional photos. All of that information can be added after the initial submission of the accident report, but you won't be able to change any of that information in there. So when we hit submit, your accident file has been submitted, and then you would actually also see that you've received an email with the actual link to the accident report and any additional information on how to add more documentation. So that information is shared with you via email also. And that is the demonstration. I will send it back to Sarah for more information.
Thanks, Angel. Go ahead and reshare my screen. We've got a lot of great questions coming in the Q&A box there. All right. Okay. Right, I'm going to turn it over to Sean Terrell to walk us through just some reminders here of what is an accident and what's an incident. Sean, you might be muted.
I was, I'm sorry.
Okay, no, you're good.
Good morning. Yeah, this is a topic that tends to cause confusion. Accidents are defined by the involvement of another vehicle, whether it be another GOV or a privately owned vehicle, damage to public or private property, or any scenario where a fatality or injury occurs. For all accidents, the SF91 is required. Incidents, on the other hand, basically reporting through this system will eliminate the need to submit a memo like you may be used to. This would include things like damage found on inspection, acts of nature, animal strikes, vandalism, recovered stolen vehicles, things like that. There is one exception to that, and that is if a vehicle is vandalized or a recovered theft and another party can be identified to be held, at fault, then we will require 91 in those cases. And that's because we'll need it to pursue the claim.
One thing I'd just add to that, your agency may have its own reporting requirements, and that may mean an SF91 for everything, accidents and incidents. This is just our requirements in, our system as far as when a 91 may not be required, as opposed to when it needs to be on our side. So just wanted to clarify that. And if it's an incident and you have a 91, you can absolutely still upload it and include it in that accident package, just so everything's bundled together in the report in our system.
Okay, a few reminders. We always recommend keeping the customer leasing guide handy. It still remains the definitive source for most up-to-date accident and reporting details and procedures. With towing, if the vehicle was towed or needs to be towed it's critical for you to call the accident management center. We want to be able to get this vehicle moved as quickly as possible and try to avoid any excessive storage fees or unnecessary tow charges. And in those cases, I saw a question earlier. Um, in those cases, we will go ahead and handle obtaining all the estimates for you if it was damaged and towed away. Uh, when you send photos, make sure that they're color photos and there's clear visual evidence of the damage. Um, Sometimes we'll receive photos that are, they're taken up so close we can't tell what we're looking at. So maybe it's a good thing to go ahead and take a photo of like each corner of the vehicle so we can see the whole thing. Um, if a government vehicle is in an accident and determined to be at fault, your agency is going to be billed back, as you know, for the repairs, and your agency's tort claims office will handle the resulting third-party claim against the government. We only handle claims going the other way for the government versus the third party. Estimate requirements. Okay, for we require at least one estimate uh, under $15,000. If you have multiples, that's even better, but there's only one required. Between $2,500 and $15,000, that vendor does need to attest to the service contract labor standards. If they don't want to, or it's taking a lot of time, it's best to get another estimate. The AMC, we reserve the right to ask for another estimate. If we're looking through the estimate that's submitted and we think something looks a little funny or doesn't match up right, or we think we need to get a second look, we may still ask for another estimate, but only one is required to get this started. For repairs that are over $15,000, three estimates are required, and we're held to award the job to a small business, a SAM registered small business. And one issue there is if the damage goes to starts at $20,000 or more, um, it's going to take a little longer because we have to post the job to contract opportunities for additional competition. If you do have a large repair over $15,000, we recommend that you do call us and we will find SAM registered vendors in your area as close as possible so that you're not just out there running around getting estimates, that we can't use, because we don't want to waste your time. And that's just about everything I have on this.
Thanks, Sean. All right, so that's actually what we had for you all today. Just put our AMC at GSA.gov email address here. If you do have questions along the way, this is where you're currently sending your accident reports to. And just for everyone's awareness, because you may be more familiar, we used to have older email addresses for our Atlanta and Kansas City offices, and those are no longer actively managed. We centralized into this single mailbox a while ago. So I just want to make sure everyone's aware of that going forward, just to use this mailbox. So, and I've been seeing a couple consistent themes around some of the questions coming in. Yeah, just a reminder, it will be going live later this summer. It is not currently live in GSA Fleet right now. And it will be, the expectation is that you will report in the module once it is released. If you have any in-flight cases that you started, right before this released, you can continue just sending in. If you need to send in an additional document, just send it through the mailbox and we'll just get everything closed out that already exists through our legacy protocols. But anything new after this is released should be reported through the application. Stacy, do you think it's we should just start going through them, or what would you recommend?
Yeah, that's probably the best. If I don't know if anybody has flagged anyone specific to be answered aloud. If they did, I would start there, but I know there have been a lot of questions coming in. They've been
Yeah.
doing a great job with keeping up with them. I know it's definitely hard, but it's probably easiest
Okay.
yeah, if you just start at the top and make your way through. But if as the team is looking at ones, if there's ones they really want to make sure they get to, they could mark it to answer it live, and then we could always kind of jump to those ones.
Okay, that sounds good. So we've got a question here about accessing historical accidents. And yes, if you have, depending on your access in the system, you will be able to review or see historical reported accidents and incidents that are in our system. Probably won't be able to see you won't be able to see like our purchase order or anything like that in the details of the actual repair authorization that we've created. But you will be able to see, the general kind of accident details that were populated, a description, and then any documents that were supplied will be available for those cases. Now, any case that has already been closed, obviously you won't be able to edit it or add anything to it, but you will be able to view what was reported previously. I answered that one. What is the status of existing claims being migrated? So yeah, everything that's in the system now will be there going forward. But again, if you have something in flight, and you're still providing documentation for it, you can send that through the mailbox and then just make sure new reports start in the application going forward. As with some other agencies, only fleet personnel have access to GSAFleet.gov. Will it be possible to give operators access only to the accident module?
There, if you can, I'll jump in here.
Perfect.
So it is absolutely possible to give operators access only to the accident module. We've created an accident reporting permission that is available to motor pool drivers, motor pool dispatchers, fleet support, customer fleet manager, and the customer administrator roles in GSAFleet.gov. So if you have a user that is only going to be accessing GSAFleet.gov for the purpose of reporting accidents, they would simply go through the same registration process as every other user, except now in that registration form that's being completed, they can identify that they are only going to be reporting accidents, and that's their only purpose. So that way, when a customer administrator receives the request to get access to GSAFleet.gov, they're able to give that user the motor pool driver role. And with that role, the only thing they see is the help tips area as well as the accident reporting area. So they'll be able to report that accident and they can maintain a list of every accident that they've reported. They won't see every accident reported for every vehicle on the account, like a customer fleet manager or a customer admin would, but they will be able to see everything that they've reported. So hopefully they probably only have one because they got in one accident, but yeah, depending on driving history, we might see a couple more. But there you go.
Thanks, Angel. The next two questions actually are kind of related. So with regard to vendors and getting estimates. So the first one, are there specific requirements for repair estimates? Do vendors have to be pre-approved by GSA? Sean, do you want to touch on that one maybe?
Yeah, they should be. They should be GSA approved vendors. However, if there's nothing in the area, we can also accept a vendor as long as they take our form of payment and add them in as a vendor to use, as long as they agree to our standards.
Yeah. And then as far as like the repair estimates themselves with like needs to be line item itemized, correct?
Yes,
Okay.
showing all the parts prices and labor times.
Yeah. All right. And then the next one is regarding if you need a list of local vendors, where to take your vehicle for the estimate. Yeah, great question. And please reach out to us. Please call us. And we can look that up based on your location. Some of our already GSA approved vendors in your area. Okay, let's say if a vehicle was in one accident and before it was fixed, it was damaged again in a different area of the original damage. Will you submit two different reports, or can you submit one submission if all the required documents are provided? I'm going to go ahead and ask the expert Sean on this one again.
That really depends. If the two and if both cases were incidents and no one else was involved, we could go ahead and repair the vehicle all in one all at one time, on one purchase order. If, say, one was an accident with a POV and there's a possibility of a claim there, and the other was an incident where somebody backed into a pole, in those instances, we would want two separate reports, because we're gonna have a separate file for the claim. Hope that answers it.
And
Yeah,
the
yeah.
system will not stop you from submitting that second report if you need to. So in the rare event that this does happen where you need to submit another report while the first report is still in progress, you can do so in GSAFleet.gov.
Wouldn't be the first time it's happened.
We can do the whole repair at the same time. We'll just have to separate it out at the end and bill the correct parties.
Yep, yep, thank you. In the event the other driver, the POV, refuses to provide information, what are our options? For example, on private property, civilian police may refuse to respond, thus no law enforcement assistance in driver exchange. It's a great question.
You may take
Yeah,
that one.
repeat it. In the event of another driver, the POV, refuses to provide information, what are our options? For example, on private property, civilian police may refuse to respond, thus no law enforcement assistance in driver exchange.
The best thing you can do when you're in an accident, especially on private property, take pictures. I mean, you can get the vehicle's license plate and any other pictures of the vehicle if you can get them. Then you can get the information from the police station if possible, because without their information, we cannot bill the third party for the damages. If you get their information and the police still won't show up, make sure that information is on your SF91 and your paperwork and in your description of the incident. I mean, it happens every single day. You call the police, hey, they won't show up. Just make sure you put that in your report and your description. It's fine, but at the same time, it's best to jump out, take as many pictures as possible to help everyone in the whole process.
Yep, thank you, Travis. Will the GSA AMC be using this to provide the customer PO document? I imagine you're referring to in lieu of us emailing it. We will still continue to email the customer the purchase order, as well as the vendor, to make sure you're aware the PO has been authorized and what the next steps are. That PO, that memo that you do get emailed will also be in the list of documentation. So when you go in to view what's been reported on that accident and then the documentation section, you'll see that that is a PDF as well. So be in both areas. Will the directions be sent out to all of us, Gary? That's a great question. We are currently working on putting together a user guide for this step by step. So you know what to do based on different scenarios. And yes, that will be posted likely on our GSAFleet.gov help page, where you can access a whole slew of other desk guides and user guides. And just as an FYI, there are user guides out there on how to create an account. If you know somebody that, hey, they need this because they do this periodically, but they don't have an account, please share that with them. There's also access or user guides for customer administrators, right? So when you're getting new requests for access in the system, kind of what the roles and responsibilities surrounding that are. So both can be accessed on that help tab in GSAFleet.gov. Diana, can you demonstrate, you said, can you demonstrate when the approved PO notification is sent and what it looks like in GSAFleet.gov? Yeah, it's what it will look like. Angel, I don't know if you still have the test screen up, if you want to just share that real quick, like the documentation section. It's just going to say customer PO, I believe. There's like canned naming convention for the attachment, and that's what it'll be pretty explicit.
Yeah, I just got to log in under a GSA Fleet role, but I can get it.
Okay, take your time. We're going to keep rolling through these.
Hey, Sarah.
Yep.
I'm not cutting you off. If you guys have time and want to stay and answer more, all for that. If you don't have the time, that's okay too. I want to remind you that I'll pull the Q&A transcript for you guys, and you'll be able to see anything that didn't get answered, and you'll have emails, addresses to be able to follow up with anybody if need be as well. The other thing, especially with this being new, is maybe we can take that Q&A and have it, Google Gemini create us an FAQ document based on it, kind of a thing that could maybe be part of what goes out when you do the user guide and other communications for it. So
Perfect.
Whatever you guys want to do, we can support you. Just kind of wanted to throw those things out there.
I appreciate that. We're definitely not going to get through all of these. There's still a lot that folks put in here, and I see a lot surrounding just not so much maybe the application itself and the new process, but just some general questions around accident and certain situations. And you can always call or email us to kind of talk about those different scenarios that you may be experiencing as well. So let's tackle a few more here, and then we'll probably table this and then just get the unresponded questions out to those that attended the session today. Angel, it looks like you wanted to answer one of these lives regarding confirming the links provided in emails do not expire.
Yes, thank you so much. So Cheryl, actually the links provided in the emails do expire. And I'm so glad you pointed that out, because that is something that we'll have to update in that email template. As with all links that are sent from GSAFleet.gov, they expire after 36 hours. I want to confirm that number so that we can update the email to show that. And that's just due to security purposes, but you are always able to access the accident reports going through GSAFleet.gov, like I showed a little earlier. So that'll be included in the user guide that we provide when this goes live around mid-August. And if you have another second, I think, oh no, I don't have one. Sorry, I'm just having a hard time getting the
No, don't worry, you're good.
emails pulled up, but we could absolutely send that out to you to
Yeah.
give that example.
Just to show that. Would a situation involving another vehicle without the other driver in the vehicle still be an accident, i.e. a parked vehicle was hit? Yes. Correct me if I'm wrong, Sean.
Yes.
Yeah, and Travis, yeah, because there's
Especially-
other property involved. It doesn't have to be a person necessarily, but other property has been damaged. That would be an accident. Now, if the GOV was, again, if they were at fault and they hit another car, we would bill the customer agency for the damages to the GOV, and then the third party involved in this instance, would need to work with you and your agency tort claims office. We would not do any third party and have any third party involvement there when the GOV is at fault. How often are inspections done? Is this sort of like the preventative maintenance schedule? If you're referring to vehicle inspections, I might need some more context on that one. To know specifically what you're referring to, just a general vehicle inspection, or actually taking it into a shop to be inspected. So please feel free to put clarification in or reach out to us. Is there a memo form available, Marco? Great question. So right now, when you're in an incident and we say we don't need the SF91 necessarily, you can provide, I mean, a memo. What we mean by that is really like the details, the who, what, where, when, why, how, as descriptive and specific as possible is going to help us ultimately. So we need all of those details, and that right now can be in the form of an email. Going forward with this new module, we're going to capture that in the system, right? So the required fields when you report an accident in here will capture all of those details that we need. Again, we just ask you to be as specific as possible, just so we don't have to have that back and forth if something's missing. So again, incidents going forward, the basic information is just going to be in the system. We do not need anything ancillary to that, a memo in this case. Looks like we've got several specific scenarios here that I think we'll likely table and respond to after this. Just trying to see if there's anything else about the application itself. So if you're a user without a government phone to provide pictures, and for submittal, as far as submitting this, I think obviously we want, if you're in an accident, you to be able to collect as much information at the scene, photos, details, third party at fault information, and that's going to help us in the long run. It's not always feasible. We understand that, especially given the particular scenario. But the expectation is that you would collect as much as you can at the scene, and then you would report this when you're back at your office or wherever, and using our online GSA Fleet portal, you can go in and create the submission there, as opposed to on a government phone. All right, estimates were needed if it goes over 2,500. When did it change to 1,500? I think maybe you meant 15,000. We do need an estimate if it's under 15,000. It's just that if it's over 15,000, and that is the micro purchase threshold right now, and that changed, I believe, October 1st of this past year. If it's over 15,000, we need the 3 estimates to do a competition, you know, but under that, we require 1, and we may need more just depending on the scenario. But it did change, the micro purchase threshold changed this past year. Yes, your FSR will be able to assist with this process. They will be trained up on everything here as well. So, you know, we all stand ready to help you navigate this new application and hope to get as much material out to you in advance as possible. All right. I think we're going to table this. I see a lot of just specific types of accidents. One other thing I'll just touch on here, will the crash report still be available? Yes, the crash report is still available for you. I do think you're going to find that a lot of the information that you may go to the crash report for, you'll be able to find on the listing page, if you will, of all the accidents. But again, that report is still available so that you can see specifics for the various accidents that you're being billed. All right, let's go ahead and table this and respond to them and get back to you all. Thank you guys so much for all these wonderful questions. I'm really looking forward to this new application and working with you all and seeing where this takes us. So thank you for your time today, and we will talk to you all later.